remember the smell of burnt roast and expensive perfume lingering in our kitchen the day my husband, David, destroyed our marriage with a single, practiced sentence. We had been married for 15 years. 15 years of building a life, a home, and a reputation in a quiet, upscale neighborhood where secrets were usually kept behind manicured hedges. I thought our life was solid, built on the rock of mutual respect. Then he stood there in the entryway, his hands trembling with a performance that should have won him an Oscar, and told me he had a 20-year-old daughter named Brooke from a woman he'd met long before he ever knew me. He said her mother had passed away in a tragic accident and she had nowhere else to go. She was alone in the world, he claimed, and he couldn't live with the guilt of turning his back on his own flesh and blood. Before we get deeper into the details of how I uncovered their twisted game and the specific moment I knew I was being hunted in my own home, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you, and if you're new here, click on the subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. These stories are lessons in survival, and I want you to be part of our community. I looked at David's tear-filled eyes and felt a wave of maternal sympathy I wasn't prepared for. I felt for the girl, and honestly, I felt for him. I told him to bring her home. I told him our house was her house. But as the door opened and Brooke walked in that following Sunday, every instinct in my body went cold. She didn't look like a grieving daughter. She didn't have that hollow look of someone who had just buried a mother. Instead, she walked in with a designer suitcase and a gaze that swept over my expensive rugs and oil paintings, like she was taking an inventory. As she smiled at me, a chill settled in my bones that no fireplace could warm. I saw a flash of cold, calculating triumph in her eyes. My name is Sarah, and this is the story of how my husband brought his lover into our home, disguised as his child, and the devastating price they paid when I decided to stop being the supportive wife. For the first 3 weeks, I tried everything to be the perfect stepmother. I went out and bought Brooke Egyptian cotton sheets and silk pajamas. I spent my mornings making her favorite breakfasts, trying to bridge the gap between her and the father she supposedly never knew. But the everyday details started to feel wrong, terribly wrong. David became obsessed with her comfort in a way that felt frantic. He would spend hours in her room with the door closed, claiming they were bonding. One Tuesday night I walked past her room and I heard muffled laughter. Not the kind of laughter a girl shares with a new father, but a deep, intimate shared giggle that you only hear between long-term partners. It was the sound of two people sharing a secret at my expense. When I asked David about the noise, he didn't just deny it, he attacked. He snapped at me, his voice echoing off the walls, accusing me of being a bitter, jealous woman who couldn't handle his past. He told me I was being unstable and that I was imagining things because I was insecure about my age. That was the first time I felt the sting of gaslighting. It's a terrifying thing when the person you trust most tries to convince you that your own senses are lying to you. Have any of you ever felt like you were being made to feel crazy in your own home? How would you react if your spouse told you that your intuition was just a symptom of your own insecurity? I knew right then that I needed to stop talking and start watching. The tension in the house became heavy, like the thick air right before a summer storm. I started noticing Brooke marking her territory in subtle, cruel ways. I found her lipstick in David's car. I noticed her wearing my favorite pearl necklace when she thought I was busy in the garden. She began leaving her silk robes draped over the sofa in the living room, a visual reminder that she was making herself at home in every corner of my life. During dinner, she would sit unnecessarily close to him, her hand occasionally brushing his under the table. When I would look up, they would both be staring at their plates. I felt like a ghost in my own house, watching a new family form in the wreckage of my sanity. I decided that if I was going to lose my mind, I was going to do it with data in my hand. I waited until they went out for a father-daughter lunch. The moment their car cleared the driveway, I went to work. While cleaning the guest bathroom, I found a crumpled receipt in the bottom of the wastebasket. It was for a high-end boutique hotel in the city, dated from 2 years ago, long before Brooke had supposedly found David. The reservation was for 2 adults. My heart dropped into my stomach. The timeline of their lies began to unravel in my mind like a frayed rope. They hadn't just met. This was an invasion. They had been together for years, and now they had moved the affair under my roof to push me out. I didn't scream, and I didn't throw things. I realized that if I confronted them then, David would just lie again. They were waiting for me to file for divorce so they could claim half of everything I had worked for. I decided to play the part of the delusional supportive wife to perfection. I told David over dinner, with a fake, bright smile, that I wanted to truly secure Brooke's future. I suggested we move our joint investment accounts and the deed to our vacation home into a protected trust for her. David's eyes lit up with a predatory greed. He actually leaned over and kissed my forehead, calling me the most generous woman he'd ever known. It was all I could do not to gag. While they spent their evenings whispering about their future, I was living a double life. I spent my lunch hours meeting with a private investigator and a high-stakes divorce attorney. We tracked their digital footprints through old social media accounts and burner phones. We found photos of them on vacation in the Caribbean 3 years ago. During the same week, David had told me he was at a conference. Every photo and every credit card swipe was a nail in the coffin of our marriage. I was building a cage out of their own lies, and they were walking into it with their eyes wide open, blinded by their own arrogance. Have you ever had to pretend everything was fine while knowing your whole world was a lie? The ultimate turning point came during our 15th anniversary dinner. David had the nerve to suggest that Brooke join us. As I sat across from them in that candlelit restaurant, watching them share a dessert and whisper to each other, I realized that David didn't just want my money, he wanted to humiliate me. That night, I received the DNA results I had secretly commissioned using hair from Brooke's hairbrush and a used coffee pod David had left in the trash. The results were clear. 0% chance of paternity. She was a total stranger. My grief turned into a quiet, burning fire. I had everything I needed to finish this. I waited until exactly 6 months after Brooke moved in to execute my final plan. I organized a celebration of family party. I invited everyone, his boss, our oldest friends, and his parents. During the toast, I stood up, clinking my glass until the room went silent. I told the crowd how much it meant to me that David had reconnected with his daughter. Then I told them I had a special slideshow. I dimmed the lights. Instead of childhood photos, the screen filled with images of David and Brooke in romantic embraces from 3 years ago. Then came the hotel receipts. Finally, the DNA test results were projected in massive, bold letters. The silence in the ballroom was so heavy, it felt like it was crushing the air out of the room. What David hadn't realized was that my lawyer had inserted a very specific fraud and morality clause in the trust. The transfer of assets was only valid if the recipient was a legal, biological heir. By signing those papers, David had committed documented fraud. Because she wasn't his daughter, the assets reverted entirely to me. I had filed for divorce at 8 a.m. that morning. David lost his job within the week, and Brooke, seeing that the fountain of money had dried up, vanished within 48 hours. Today, I still live in our home, but the lingering scent of her perfume is gone. I lost a husband, but I gained a version of myself that is no longer a victim. What would you have done? If you found out your partner brought a lover into your home under such a disgusting lie, would you have the patience to play the long game? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. This story is a reminder to every one of you, your intuition is a gift. Never ever let someone convince you that you're crazy for seeing what is right in front of your eyes. Thank you for listening to this journey. If this story touched you, please leave a comment and share your perspective. Subscribe for more timeless stories that will touch your heart and keep you thinking long after the video ends. Your support allows us to keep sharing these powerful narratives.